أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. In our lesson today, which is the last lesson in our course, we shall be covering strategy, evaluation, and control. So this will be our last lesson today, and tomorrow, inshallah, you shall be having your quiz, and the quiz will be out of 20. Then the Office of Postgraduate will share with you the timetable for the final exams. So the final exam will be out of 60. Then the quiz will be out of 20. Then the attendance will be out of 20. So that is a total of 100, the 60 plus 20 plus 20. Now, our lesson today is very short, and these are our lesson objectives. So by the end of this lesson, number one, you should be able to define what is strategy evaluation. Number two, describe the purpose and objectives of strategy evaluation. Number three, explain the role of strategy evaluation in the strategic management process. Number four, outline the strategy evaluation process. Number five, identify the criteria for effective strategy evaluation. Then number six, discuss methods for measuring performance in strategy evaluation. Then number seven, examine strategy monitoring and control systems and their impact on strategic success. Then lastly, analyze challenges in strategy evaluation and propose effective solutions. So these are our lessons objectives. Now, as we start our lesson, it's very important to understand this framework. And this is the framework we've been using since we started our course. It is called the strategic management process. Now, in the strategic management process, we always have phase one. If you look at the far left, phase one, remember we talked about the environmental scanning. So the environmental scanning, this is where you scan and analyze both the external environment and the internal environment. Then number two is phase two. It's known as strategy formulation. So when you are talking about strategy formulation, this is where you choose your strategy. Remember in our last lesson last week, we talked about the corporate strategy, the business strategy, and the functional strategy. These are the three main types of strategy in an organization. Now, then phase three, last week, we also talked about strategy implementation. Now, the last thing that we are going to cover is what? The last thing in strategic management process is the evaluation. You have already finished phase one, phase two, phase three, and now phase four. We need to evaluate to see if our strategy is doing well, or there are some areas that needs to be fixed. No, so this is the same thing. This is another framework, that we've been using. So we have the mission. Number one, in the strategic management process, you have to formulate your mission, vision, and objectives. Then after that, you need to do the internal and external environment analysis. Then this is what is known as the strategic choice. The strategic choice is either the corporate strategy, the business strategy, or the functional strategy. This is what is meant by what? This strategic choice. Then after that, there is the implementation. Now, today we shall be focusing with the control and evaluation. Now, let us start our lesson. So, introduction to strategy evaluation. So what is the definition of strategy evaluation and what is its importance? So strategy evaluation is the process of assessing how well a strategic plan is performing and making necessary adjustment to achieve organizational goals. Full stop. So we are assessing how well our strategy is doing. Is it performing well? Khalas, no problem. are there some areas that needs to be adjusted? So that is the question that strategic evaluation or strategy evaluation normally answers. So it ensures that the chosen strategy aligns with the company's vision, mission, and external environment. So, for example, a private school implements a new leadership style to improve what? To improve teacher performance. So, strategy evaluation helps determine whether the new leadership approach is increasing productivity or if adjustments are needed. So, this is just a basic example. There is a private school that has implemented a new leadership strategy. So, they want to evaluate, okay, to see if the new strategy of changing the leadership, is it really functional, is it really effective, or it is not. Now, what are the purposes and objective of strategy evaluation? ما هي الأهداف? And so the primary purpose of strategy evaluation is to ensure that a company's strategic plan remains relevant and effective. So the objectives include what? Number one, measuring performance against set goals. So this is what is known as a تقييم. So هناك ماذا؟ قياس الأداء. Remember, at the beginning of the strategic management process, there were some objectives. Remember in our lesson when we talked about objectives, this is what we want to achieve: number one, number two, number three, number four. Now here in evaluation, we are evaluating what we have achieved against what we set at the beginning. Number two, identifying strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So this is also one of the objectives of what? Of strategy evaluation. Then number three, ensuring efficient resource utilization. So the evaluation helps us to do what? To allocate resources effectively. For example, after evaluation, we can realize that there are some areas that are not doing well. So what should we do? We need to take resources from project A because it is not doing well, and we need to put it in project B, which is doing well. Then making timely adjustment to improve success rates. So strategy evaluation enable us to do what? To make timely adjustment. We don't have to wait. So the evaluation will help us to identify the problem early so that we fix it early. But if we don't evaluate, then the problem is going to become very big. Now, what is the role of strategy evaluation in strategic management process? So this is the process we are talking about. What is the importance of this strategy evaluation in the whole process? This is the process we are talking about. What is the importance of this phase 4, which is strategy evaluation? It is the last phase. So is it important really? So strategy evaluation is the final phase of strategic management, ensuring that strategic planning and implementation lead to desired results. So this is the phase that will enable us to know we've achieved. نحن قد أنجزنا قد حققنا الأهداف. So it helps in providing feedback, identifying what is working and what is not working. Number two, facilitating continuous improvement. التحسن المستمر, making necessary modification to improve performance. Then lastly, enhancing decision making. So the process of evaluation supports the leadership of the organization in making informed choices about the future. So it helps in decision making. Why? Because we get to understand what is working and what is not working. And this information helps us as an organization to move to the next level. Now, another important point, what is the connection? What is the connection of strategy evaluation with the other stages? Are they related? Are they interrelated with the other two phases? That is, we have strategy formulation and strategy implementation. So one thing you have to know about evaluation Yes, it is the final phase, but evaluation happens continuously. From the formulation, evaluation is still there. When we are implementing, we are also evaluating. So the evaluation, we don't just wait until the end to evaluate. No. So we evaluate as the work is going on. We evaluate as the work is going on. So number one, you can see from this image is that we have strategy formulation. So when we are formulating our strategy, evaluation checks if the chosen strategy is viable. So evaluation will help us. For example, when you are choosing the strategy, we have strategy A, strategy B, strategy C, and D. So evaluation will help us here. We are going to go to strategy A, the advantages and disadvantages we are going to evaluate. We'll go to strategy B, advantages, disadvantage. Strategy C, the same. Strategy D, also the same. Then after evaluating, we will choose the best strategy. So that is how evaluation helps in strategy formulation. Then number two, in strategy implementation, how does evaluation help in implementation? Evaluation monitors execution effectiveness. So while we are executing, we need to evaluate to see, are we being effective? Are we being efficient? So we should not just be doing without evaluating ourselves. Then we might be doing the wrong thing. So evaluation basically helps us not to do what? Not to continue doing the wrong thing when we are implementing. So the evaluation basically helps us to understand what is working and what is not working, in brief. Now, when and how often to evaluate strategy, which is also very important. When, matter or كيف. Matter or كيف. When and how. So when and how often. Matter or كم مرة should we evaluate a strategy. So strategy evaluation should be conducted regularly. So when we are talking about regularly, we are basically talking about daiman. We should always be. So we have quarterly, quarterly sometimes it can be after 3 or 4 months, annually after 1 year, semi-annually after 6 months. So this one helps track progress over time. So we do, for example, after 2 months, we evaluate. After another 2 months, we evaluate, or after every 6 months. It depends with the organization. It depends with the size of the organization and the nature of the business. Number two, after major changes, such as leadership transition, market shifts, or new product launches. So for example, if you are in a company, the leadership is changing, they are bringing a new CEO of the organization, then we need to do an evaluation so that we need to know what was happening before, because the new team, the new leadership, they want to get to understand what was happening before. Market shifts. Sometimes when there is the change in the market, the change in the demand and supply, we need to evaluate. Then, or new product launches. For example, as an organization or as a business, if we are launching a new product or if we are opening a new branch, so we need to evaluate. Then, lastly, we also need to do evaluation during performance decline. When our business is not doing okay, if an organization notices a drop in sales, هناك الانخفاض مثلا في المبيعات, employee performance or the performance of موظفين is that low, or customer satisfaction, or sometimes the customers are not satisfied, we need to evaluate. We need to ask ourselves some difficult questions and find answers to those difficult questions. Now, the strategy evaluation process. Remember when we were defining strategic management, when we were defining when we were defining strategic evaluation, we said strategy evaluation is the process. Is the process here, al-amaliya. So we want to know here, what is that process? What process is involved then? So there are 4 processes when we are evaluating any project or when we are evaluating our strategy. Number 1, establishing performance standard. هناك المعايير تحديد المعايير للأداء. تحديد. We need to establish performance standard. This is setting measurable goals and benchmarks. Remember, in our previous lesson, we talked about if you are setting an objective, it has to be smart goals. Before you do anything, تحديد الأهداف. For example, look here, a university sets a 10% increase in student enrollment as a performance target. So, قبل أن نبدأ الهدف واضح. The university here, they want to increase their enrollment by 10%. Okay, number 2, measuring actual performance. This is comparing results against set standard. So here we compare, for example, if it is the university, we at the end of the year, we compare. Mathalan, the enrollment increased by 8%, and our target was 10%. So there is a deficit of 2%. But sometimes we set the target of 10% and we achieve the 10%. Wow, that is mashallah. Sometimes we set the target of 10%, but we get 20%. We have exceeded our performance. We have done excellently. So that is measuring actual performance. We compare what we have now and what we had initially planned for. Then analyzing deviation. Now, there is a gap. If there is a gap, for example, we were planning for 10% and now we have 8%. There is a deviation of 2%. We ask ourselves, limadha? What happened? Why are we having this 2%? Why did we not achieve 10%? Then once we ask ourselves that question, taking corrective actions. So here, adjusting strategy to improve performance. So here, this is the last thing. We are doing what? We tashih al-inhirafat. So we are trying to correct the mistake to ensure that in the next year, we have to achieve this 10%. So in brief, this is the 4. In some books, the process can even be what? There are 10 steps, 6 steps, 7 steps, but this is the summary of all the steps. Now, what is the criteria for effective strategy evaluation? If we want to effectively evaluate our strategy, there are some criteria, al-ma'ayir. The first one is consistency. The strategy should align with organizational goals and policies. We have our strategy. This strategy should be aligned to our vision, mission, goals, objectives, and values. If not, there is a problem somewhere. Number 1. Number 2, visibility. The strategy should be realistic and achievable with available resources. The strategy that is to be evaluated, it should be realistic. Sometimes don't choose a strategy and you don't have the money. You don't have enough human resource. So al-waqi'iyya. Then suitability, al-munasaba. Suitability. When something is suitable, it is munasib. The strategy should fit the company's environment and market condition. We have our internal environment as an organization. Our strategy تكون ملائما مع بيئة الداخلية للمنظمة. ثم advantage الميزة التنافسية. The strategy should provide a competitive edge. This strategy that we want to evaluate or we are choosing should enable us to compete with our competitors. Then we have consonance. the strategy should align with external environment trends. So when we are talking about suitability, internal environment. Consonant, our strategy should align with external environment. It should align with what is happening outside the environment. ثم relevance means ahmiya, muhim. So relevance, the strategy should address current organizational needs and market demands. So the strategy that we are choosing should help us to solve the problems that are there حاليا. It should enable us لتلبية الاحتياجات الموجودة. There should be a talab, there should be some demand. Then lastly, acceptability, al-qubul, from the word al-qubul, al-qabaliyya. So the strategy should be acceptable to stakeholders. They should accept the strategy, including the employees, customers, and investors. So these are the criteria for effective strategy evaluation. Now, the most important part also is this: measuring performance. Because at the end of the day, we are formulating, implementing a strategy. لماذا؟ نريد التحسين الأداء. ولكن we need, what is performance? Why are we measuring, and what is measuring performance? So a systematic process to track means mutaba'a, to track progress towards strategic goals using quantitative and qualitative metrics. So when we are measuring our performance, there are two ways. We have the quantitative, which is the financial metrics, and we have the qualitative. Qualitative is non-financial. So what is the difference between the two? Number one, we have the financial metrics. These are the quantitative. So most of the organization, number one, they normally use what? Return on investment. So this one measures the profitability of an investment. Mathalan, a company invests 1 million in a new product and earns 1.5 million, achieving a 50% return on investment. So this one gives you figures you can easily measure. I invested 1 million, I have a profit of 1.5 million. You know, so it basically means I have 50% of profit. Al-aid min al-istithmar. Al-aid min al-istithmar. Then, so number two is profitability. Assesses how efficiently a company generates profit. How are we generating our profits? For example, a restaurant tracks its net profit margin to see if food costs are managed effectively. So when we are talking about profitability, we are comparing our takalif, our masarif, and the profit that we are gaining. So if, remember, our takalif has to be low so that our profit needs to be high, or our revenue. But if our costs are up, it is going to affect our profit. Then number three, revenue, al-aid, revenue growth, evaluates the increase in sales over time. So you can say this year our sales was 10%, last year our sales was 30%, ila ghayri dhalik. So this is financial metric. You can easily measure with figures. Then the opposite is true. The opposite, we don't have any figure. The non-financial. So the non-financial, number one, customer satisfaction. So this one measures client happiness through survey and feedback. If you are having a business, you always have your customers. Sometimes you give them questionnaires. Sometimes you just ask them, how is our service? Is it good or bad? Wow, it's good, mashallah. No, it's bad. You have to improve. So we get the feedback. We measure our performance through our customers' feedback. Number two, market share. Compares a company's sales to industrial sales. Mathalan, a smartphone brand track its percentage of global sales compared to competitors. So, for example, you have the mobile phone. So Samsung, they compare their sales with iPhone or with Infinix. Even you, if you're having a cafeteria, you just compare your cafeteria with the other cafeterias, how they're doing compared to your cafeteria. Then employee engagement assesses staff motivation and productivity. So here we just assess the performance of our workers. Sometimes employees, they leave the company if they are not happy, if they're not paying them good salary. It means the performance of the company is not doing well. So that is one way we can know if our performance is good or if it is not good. We can also measure the productivity of every employee. What is Mohammed doing every day in his office? What is Aisha doing every day? So we have two types of what? Of financial metrics. Now, another part is the key performance indicators in strategy evaluation. This is also related to measuring performance. So what are key performance indicators? These are measurable values that assesses how effectively an organization is achieving its objective. So these indicators, they help us to know if we are doing well, if we are not doing okay. They provide a clear way to track progress and evaluate the success of a strategy. Now, what is the importance of key performance indicators? Are they important? Do we need to have these indicators? Yes. Why? Performance measurement. These indicators, they help us to measure our performances. Number two, these indicators, they help us to make the right decision. It helps us in making informed decisions because it provides us with data and information. You cannot make a decision without information. Accountability, al-muhasaba. These key performance indicators, for example, if you're working in any organization, every employee has his or her performance indicators. For example, Mohammed, every month you are supposed to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. At the end of the month, the manager will evaluate Mohammed and ask Mohammed, these were your performance indicators. Number 1, you did. Number 2, number 3. But number 4 and number 5, you did not do. Why? That is accountability. Then continuous improvement. These key performance indicators, they help us to identify the gaps and areas for enhancement. We know where we need to fix, we fix. Then lastly, competitive advantage. It helps businesses stay ahead. It helps us to be ahead of our competitors by benchmarking against industry standards. So these are the importance of these key performance indicators. Now, this is also very important. Types of control in strategy management. How do we evaluate? How do we do the recover, the control? So there are 3 types of control in strategic evaluation and control. Number 1, feed forward control. Number 2, concurrent control. Number 3, feedback control. So all the organizations, the businesses, they normally use 1 or 2. Sometimes they use 1, sometimes they use 2, sometimes they blend, mushakal. And that is the best practice, to use 3 of them together. So number 1, feed forward. So this one, look up here. This is the input. It's called input. Before works begin, evaluation is done before we start working. So ensure the right direction are set and the right resources inputs are available. So here, solve problems before they occur. This is a proact. We don't wait for the problem. So we evaluate before we start. We solve problem before they occur. Number 2, concurrent during work. Ensure the right things are being done as part of workflow operation. So we solve problems while they are occurring. Khilal al-amal, khilal, throughout. So we are working. So as we are working, we are evaluating. We are working, we are evaluating to see if there is any problem. Khilal al-amal, fi athna al-amal. Then lastly is the output, after. This is the worst. So this one, after work complete, ensure the final results are up to desired standard. They solve problems after they occur. So this is a reactive approach, which is not good. So you just wait until the problem is there. That is when you start actually acting. So these are the three types of control. So sometimes, of course, it depends with the nature of the strategy or the nature of the project. Sometimes maybe some projects, maybe the output, the feedback control is the best. For some projects, maybe the feed forward is the control. And for some project, it might be the concurrent. But many strategies and many projects, they embrace the three together. Now, the 5 ways approach in strategic control. What is the meaning of the 5 whys? The 5 whys, limada. The 5 whys means we ask ourselves, limada, 5 times. So this is a strategy. It helps us to identify the performance gap. So how does it work? So number 1, identify the problem. ما هي المشكلة؟ مثلا sales drop by 20%. هناك الانخفاض في المبيعات. هذه هي المشكلة. So once you identify the problem, then you ask 5 whys. So مثلا, so ask why repeatedly. Look at the first why. Why did sales drops? Why did fewer customers? So why did sales drop? Fewer customers purchase. Why did fewer customers purchase? Our competitor launched a better product. Why couldn't we match their product? Our research and development was delayed. Why was our RD delayed? Budget cuts slowed development. Why were budget cuts? Leadership prioritized short-term profits over innovation. So you ask yourself the why 5 times. Then you will find the root cause. The root cause is what? Leadership prioritize short-term profits over innovation. So this is a strategy that can help you when you are evaluating any problem. So awalan, you identify the problem. Ma hiya al-mushkila. Then you start asking yourself, why did this happen? You'll find the answer. Ask another question related to that answer. Ask another question related to that answer 5 times. Then you will find the problem and you will solve it from there. Now, the last thing, of course, we have the element of feedback in strategic management and in strategic control and evaluation, and why it's important. We don't have enough time. So what are the challenges in strategy evaluation and what are the solutions? While we are evaluating أحيانا هناك تحديات. فما هذه التحديات؟ وكيف ممكن معالجة هذه المشاكل أو تحديات؟ Number 1, lack of reliable data. Sometimes نريد التقييم. We need to evaluate, but we don't have enough information, inaccurate information. So what should we do? Use multiple data sources. We should have مصادر المعلومات كثيرة. Number 2, resistant to change. Employees and stakeholders may resist strategic adjustment. Sometimes you evaluate, and from your evaluation, it means you need to change something, but your employees, they don't want you to change. They don't want to change. So what should you do? What is the solution? Provide training, communicate, and involve the workers. Number 3, overemphasis on short-term results. So some people or some businesses, they focus only on immediate performance. They forget about the future. So what should you do? Balance short-term and long-term. Balance. Don't just rely in the short term. You want to get the profits in the short term. Then what will happen in the long run? Then rapidly changing business environment. We are living in a dynamic environment. Every day, the environment is changing and it's changing very fast. So what should we do? Continuously monitor the environment. Then lastly, there is what? Difficulty in measuring qualitative aspect. There are some aspects, for example, customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction. It is very difficult to measure. So, but we can use surveys, interviews, ila ghairi dhalik. So these are some of the challenges that sometimes we can face. Okay. So that is the end of this course. That is the end of the strategic management course. And like I told you at the beginning, tomorrow at 8 o'clock, you will be doing a quiz. There will be a quiz, and the quiz will be 20% of your final marks. Okay. So I will send the link. The exam link tomorrow at 8 o'clock. And it will be 1 hour. And it will be multiple choice questions. So it will be multiple choice questions. It will be around 40 questions. The quiz will cover chapter module 1, module 2, module 3. Then the final exam will cover module 4, 5, and 6. This lesson here will not be in your final exam. Module 7 will not be in your final exam. So it will be only module 4, 5, and 6. Now, if you've been attending all the lessons, because we normally take the attendance after every lesson, if you've been attending the lessons, so you have the 20 marks free. You just have to, you'll get the 20 marks. Then the quiz, you get the 20 marks. So it's very easy to get an A+ in strategic management. This is one of the courses that you should be getting an A+. You cannot fail in this course unless illa man aba. So that is the end. Is there any question? Is there any question? Let me now do what? I'm going to send the attendance. Please take the attendance, because after 1 minute, I'm going to disable the link. Just take the attendance quickly before I disable the link. Okay, can you please take the attendance? I've already shared the link. So I think that's the end of our lesson. So tomorrow, inshallah, I will send you the link. That's the end of our lesson. If you'll have any question, maybe you can just inbox me. If you'll need any clarification, you can just inbox me anytime you need. Okay, so thank you. Hopefully we'll meet in another course, inshallah.